Chosen one, stop talking. Not forever, not to everyone, and not because every person around you is against you. Something you carry may be receiving too much outside access before it is strong enough inside you. You have felt this before. You knew what you wanted to do, then you explained it. One person questioned you, another offered a safer option. Someone reminded you what happened last time. Someone asked for proof you did not yet have. And by the end of the conversation, the thing that felt clear inside you suddenly needed a defense. Clarity can become fragile when too many voices enter too early. Hear this carefully. This is not God being angry at you. This is God being serious for you. There are moments when protection looks like a closed door, and there are moments when protection looks like a closed mouth. Not everything that is real inside you is ready to survive public interpretation. Before this message ends, you will know 3 things. Why telling people too early can weaken clarity. How to tell sacred silence from fearful secrecy. And why keeping your mouth shut still may not be enough when the receiver inside you remains crowded with noise. Think about the last decision that felt clear before you shared it. Maybe it was a move, a boundary, a business idea, or something you had prayed about. Before it, you felt steady. After it, you questioned what had felt simple. Most people say the other person stole their peace, or they assume they were never truly certain. But there is another possibility. Sometimes the decision was real, but it was exposed before it had roots strong enough to withstand other people's interpretations. That does not mean other people control your destiny. It means your own conviction was still forming. A new direction can feel true without being ready to answer every question. When you force it to defend itself too early, you can mistake imperfect language for weak clarity. This is where many chosen ones lose contact with what they knew. A raised eyebrow becomes doubt. A cautious tone becomes evidence. A skeptical question becomes a voice they repeat later when they are alone. The calling did not disappear. The signal became crowded. So ask yourself something now. What have you been explaining because you were afraid to trust it without permission? Do not rush it. It may reveal why you have felt pulled to become quieter in this season, not colder, not secretive, but more protective. There is a name for this vulnerable stage. Once you understand it, silence stops, sounding like punishment. It sounds like protection. Some things need witnesses, some things need counsel, some things first need silence. If this describes your season, say it simply. I guard what God gave, not as superstition. Say it because you are choosing to stop handing unfinished clarity to every available opinion. From here forward, we separate what needs to be spoken from what needs to be protected. And remember the deeper question. Why can you remove outside voices, sit in silence, and still feel confused? That question stays open. The mouth is only one gate. There is another gate inside you, and understanding it will change how you move next. Chosen one. The vulnerable stage has a name. Sacred incubation. It is the space between receiving a direction and exposing it to the full weight of other people's opinions. Incubation is not fear. It is the discipline of allowing something unfinished to become strong before you demand that it explain itself. Think how often you interrupt that process. You feel a new conviction, then immediately tell someone. You sense a boundary, then defend it before you have practiced it. You imagine a new path, then ask 5 people whether it sounds realistic. The common explanation is that sharing creates accountability. Sometimes it does. Counsel matters. But accountability and premature disclosure are not the same thing. One creates responsibility. The other turns a forming conviction into a debate too early. This is the first breakthrough. Not every truth needs immediate exposure. Something can be real before it is ready for public interpretation. Mary treasured certain things in her heart before understanding them fully. The pattern is not secrecy. The pattern is reflection before announcement. Before you share something important, ask 3 questions. Does this person actually need to know? Has this become clear enough inside me to survive questions? Am I sharing information, or am I secretly asking for permission? The 3rd question often reveals the whole pattern. If the person does not need to know, you may not need to speak yet. If the direction collapses under one ordinary question, it may need more reflection. And if you are asking for permission without admitting it, silence can return you to the place where your conviction must become honest. This does not mean refusing counsel. A trusted person can help test clarity without becoming the owner of your decision. The goal is to know what is yours to carry before somebody else names it for you. Now picture the change in your relationships. You stop explaining every choice before it has become a choice. You stop turning private direction into public discussion. You speak less, but your words carry more weight because they come after reflection instead of before it. You also stop resenting people for reactions they were never prepared to give wisely. They did not always ruin your clarity. Sometimes you handed them a fragile thing and expected them to know how to hold it. This is sacred incubation, a protected interval, a season where roots grow before witnesses arrive. You are not hiding because you fear being seen. You are allowing what is true to become stable enough that being seen will no longer control it. If this is the shift you need, say it clearly. I choose sacred silence. Let those words become practical. You will not announce every plan. You will not explain every boundary before you live it. You will not invite a crowd into a room that still needs quiet. But there is a counterfeit version of silence. It looks spiritual from the outside, yet underneath it, fear is still making the decisions. That counterfeit matters, because keeping your mouth shut can become another way of hiding if you do not know the difference. Remember, sacred silence protects clarity. Fearful secrecy protects insecurity. One prepares you to speak when the time is right. The other teaches you to avoid being known. In the next layer, we separate those two completely, because confusing them can turn protection into isolation. Chosen one, silence can protect you, but silence can also hide you. That distinction matters. Fear can wear a spiritual face. It can tell you, nobody is safe, nobody should know anything, and every question is an attack. That is not discernment. That is isolation in sacred language. Sacred silence does not make you suspicious of everyone. It makes you selective. You can still receive counsel. You can still be honest with trusted people. Access is given with intention, not anxiety. Some people genuinely need to know. A spouse may need context. A business partner may need facts. A trusted mentor may help test a decision. Silence becomes unhealthy when it avoids necessary truth. But many people do not need early access. The chronic doubter needs no unfinished idea. The gossip needs no private details. The person you want to impress needs no early access. Someone who never carries the cost should not automatically judge. Ask what you expect from the conversation. Do you need information, accountability, cooperation? Or do you need that person to calm your fear and tell you your decision is acceptable? Those motives create very different outcomes. If you need counsel, choose counsel. If you need cooperation, communicate clearly. If you need honesty, speak honestly. But if you are reaching for reassurance because your conviction feels unstable, pause before asking another person to resolve that instability for you. This is the line between sacred silence and fearful secrecy. Sacred silence protects clarity until it can stand. Fearful secrecy protects insecurity from being examined. One prepares you to speak. The other delays truth because being known feels dangerous. Notice what happens in your body when you imagine explaining your next move. Maybe your jaw tightens, your shoulders may rise. The urge to defend yourself may appear before anyone challenges you. That reaction can show you the conversation has already become a performance inside your mind. You do not have to perform your calling. You do not have to make everyone comfortable. You do not have to turn private direction into proof that you are progressing. Some strong seasons look quiet because the real work comes before the announcement. There is freedom. Stop blaming people for every doubt that appears after you speak. Sometimes they were simply being themselves. You gave them access before you were ready for what their perspective would stir. That gives you responsibility for the gate. Choose people who share the consequence, have proven safe, carry relevant wisdom, or need the information to act with you. Everyone else can wait. Their curiosity can wait. Their confusion is not always your assignment. But now we reach a stranger problem. What if nobody is talking and you still cannot find peace? What if the room is quiet, your phone is down, and your mouth is closed, but the argument continues inside your head? What if you keep replaying conversations and defending yourself mentally? External silence can remove voices from the room. It cannot automatically remove the voices you carried inside. The mouth can be closed while attention is still scattered. And if that is happening, the real issue is no longer only what you say. The next layer is about why the mind keeps talking after the conversation ends. It is about the hidden hunger that makes over-explaining feel necessary, even when it drains you. Once you see that pattern, you can stop asking others to stabilize what must become steady inside you. Chosen one, the next pattern is harder to admit. Sometimes you are not explaining because the other person needs clarity. You are explaining because you need their reaction to settle something inside you. Your words leave your mouth, but what you are really asking is simple. Tell me I am safe. Tell me I can trust myself. You may write a message, delete it, rewrite it, then send another one because the first did not feel complete. You may rehearse what you will say before anyone challenges you. You may defend a decision that nobody has attacked yet. Then you replay the conversation later, searching for the sentence that might have made them understand. This is the leaking vessel. It is what happens when self-trust is outsourced to other people's responses. You start using their tone, their approval, and their hesitation to regulate your own certainty. The more unstable you feel, the more you explain. The more you explain, the more opinions enter. The more opinions enter, the less you can hear yourself. Most people call this being thoughtful. Sometimes it is. But sometimes, thoughtfulness is only fear wearing better clothes. The hidden question is not, how can I explain this better? The hidden question is, what do I already know, even if nobody agrees with me? That returns agency to you. Notice your body for a moment. Feel your jaw. Notice your throat. Let your shoulders drop. Do not force anything. Just notice whether the urge to explain appears as tension before it appears as language. Your body often reveals the need for permission before your mind is willing to name it. You do not need to become stubborn. You do not need to reject wise correction. This is not about treating every disagreement like an attack. It is about refusing to make another person's comfort the final authority over a decision that belongs to your own discernment. There is a simple test. Before you explain again, ask what result you are hoping their response will produce inside you. If the answer is peace, certainty, worth, courage, or permission, then the conversation may not be about information at all. You may be asking them to carry a weight that belongs inside your own process. Chosen one, release their permission. You can listen without surrendering your center. You can receive feedback without turning feedback into identity. You can love someone deeply without giving them the authority to decide whether the direction forming in you is real. And now we come to something most spiritual. Messages never examined closely enough. What if some of the fog you call confusion is not only emotional? What if part of the difficulty is connected to how the mind receives, organizes, and acts on information when it has been under pressure for years? There is research that points toward a deeper layer of this question. I am not naming it yet, because the value of the answer only becomes clear once you understand the full shape of the problem. But hold this question. What if the fog you keep calling spiritual confusion is not entirely a spiritual failure? That question matters because silence alone cannot solve every form of noise. You can stop talking, you can leave the room, you can put the phone down, and still, the conversation can continue inside your head. The next step is not about who you should stop speaking to. It is about what happens when your mouth is closed, but your mind is still loud. Chosen one, your mouth can be silent while your attention is screaming. You know this state. The room is quiet, but you replay the conversation. You imagine what you should have said. You predict what they might say next. You open your phone, close it, then open it again without knowing what you came to check. You may sit down to work and suddenly feel tired. You may know the next step, but another thought interrupts before you begin. You may pray for clarity, receive a simple direction, then bury it under 10 new questions. The outside world can become quiet, while the inside remains crowded. This is where many people misunderstand silence. They think removing external voices automatically creates internal peace. It does not. External silence removes input. It does not automatically organize the attention that has already been scattered by years of stress, reaction, comparison, and constant stimulation. That is why we need another concept: receiver integrity. The signal may be real, but the receiver still has to recognize it, hold it, and translate it into action. If the receiver is overloaded, even a simple decision can feel strangely difficult. Do not turn that into another reason to blame yourself. This is not a declaration that you lack faith. It is not proof that you are spiritually weak. It is a reminder that human discernment moves through a human mind, and that mind can become tired, fragmented, and overloaded. Try something practical before you seek another opinion. Give yourself an 8-minute no-input window. No phone, no conversation, no music, no new information. Sit somewhere simple and let the pressure to solve everything fall away for a few minutes. You are not trying to force an answer. You are creating enough quiet to notice what remains when nobody is feeding you another interpretation. At the end, write one sentence. What remains true when nobody is answering me? Do not write 5 pages. Write one sentence. That sentence may not solve everything. It is not supposed to. Its purpose is to show you whether your clarity strengthens when input decreases, or whether the confusion continues even after the outside voices disappear. If the confusion continues, pay attention. That does not mean something is wrong with you. It means the problem may be deeper than disclosure. You may be protecting the signal while still struggling with the condition of the receiver. This is the part that changes the direction of the message. You stayed through the warning because this was never only about gossip. It was never only about people knowing too much. It was about what happens to your clarity when too many voices compete for the same space. Say this if it fits your season: my signal stays clear. Not because you control every thought, not because you never doubt. You are choosing to reduce unnecessary noise so you can recognize the next honest step. Now we arrive at the uncomfortable question. Why does knowing still fail to create movement? Why can you understand the pattern, protect the plan, reduce the voices, and still remain stuck when it is time to act? Maybe you know what needs to happen, but you hesitate. Maybe you lose words in the middle of a thought. Maybe your focus disappears when the work matters most. That question has been underneath everything so far. And I asked you earlier to hold another question about the fog you have been calling spiritual confusion. Those two questions are about to meet, because sometimes you do not need another message. Sometimes you need to understand the receiver. Chosen one, this is the missing piece. Why does insight sometimes stay as insight? Why can you protect what is forming, remove unnecessary voices, understand the pattern, and still feel foggy when it is time to move? The answer may not be another revelation. Sometimes the receiver itself needs support. You know what matters, but you delay. You begin, then lose focus. A clear thought appears, then slips away before you can use it. That does not automatically mean your calling is wrong. Sometimes the signal is protected, while the mind receiving it is still overloaded. Here is the simple framework. Protect the signal, quiet unnecessary input, act when clarity survives the silence. But one question remains. What if the mind receiving the signal has been operating under fragmentation for longer than you realized? Remember the research question I asked you to hold. What if some of the fog you call spiritual confusion is not entirely a spiritual failure? Science does not replace God, and a laboratory cannot measure your calling. But the mind through which you notice, remember, decide, and act is still part of the process. Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for research involving the specialized functions of the brain's two hemispheres. That work expanded scientific understanding of how the hemispheres process information differently and why coordination across the brain matters. That research does not prove a spiritual claim. It opens a practical question. What changes when mental processing feels divided or overloaded, and what might support a more integrated state? A woman from California described long-standing mental fog and said a particular auditory routine helped her feel more settled. A man from Texas reported clearer thinking after using the same approach. Those are individual experiences, not promises. Your result may be different. A team led by Doctor Daniel Barone developed an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence designed around what they call neural sync technology and whole brain activation. Headphones, eyes closed, 8 minutes a day. They call it the genius switch. It is not being presented as a replacement for prayer, obedience, discernment, medical care, or professional advice. It is a digital audio tool positioned to support a more coordinated mental state through a targeted auditory sequence. It is not a generic meditation track, and it does not require a long daily practice. The appeal is simple, an 8-minute routine for people exploring support for focus and clarity. The genius switch is not for everyone. It may be worth examining for the chosen one who has learned to protect the signal, but still recognizes persistent fog inside the receiver. If that describes you, do not treat curiosity as a command. Read the information, look at the mechanism, look at the guarantee. Decide for yourself. Your faith does not depend on buying a tool. The current offer page lists it at $39, reduced from $49. It also includes 4 digital bonuses: a guided visualization, a grocery guide, a classic manifestation book, and a 5 habits infographic. The purchase includes lifetime digital access and a money-back guarantee described by the seller as unconditional. Pricing and terms can change, so verify the current details on the official page before deciding. The seller also states that the verified version is distributed through its official page. If you choose to examine it, use the link in the description or pinned comment rather than searching for copies elsewhere. The point is not pressure. The point is clarity. You have spent this message learning not to surrender your judgment to other people's reactions. Do not surrender it here either. Read, consider, decide. If this resonates, the official page is in the description and pinned comment. Review the details before making any choice. Now return to the deeper message. A tool can support clarity, but it cannot obey for you. It cannot set the boundary for you. It cannot decide what should remain protected. It cannot take the next step in your place. You have learned to protect the signal. You have learned to reduce unnecessary noise. Now you understand why the condition of the receiver matters. The next move is where insight becomes identity, because the clearest mind still needs a person willing to act. Chosen one. The tool does not replace God. It does not replace obedience. It does not replace discernment. It cannot choose courage for you, and it cannot decide which voice deserves access to your life. What it can do is support the mind that must notice, weigh, remember, and act. That distinction matters. A resource can support clarity without becoming your source. Your calling does not rise or fall on whether you buy anything. Work still belongs to the person who must live the decision. Some of you have tried many things before: books, meditations, courses, audio tracks, new routines. You felt hopeful, then nothing seemed different. If that is your story, skepticism is reasonable. You do not need to force belief because something sounds promising. Look at what is actually being offered. Look at the mechanism. Look at the guarantee. Look at the terms. Then decide without pressure. That is the same discernment this message has been teaching you. Do not hand your judgment to a seller any more than you hand it to a critic. And if you decide that the resource is not for you, the core teaching still stands. Protect what is unfinished. Quiet what is unnecessary. Act when clarity survives the silence. Those 3 steps do not require a purchase. Now imagine what that looks like in daily life. You wake up and do not announce every intention. You do not send the message just because anxiety wants an answer. You do not debate every boundary with people who will never carry its consequence. You notice the next priority. You choose one clean action. You finish what is yours before asking the world whether it approves. Your words become fewer, but they become stronger because they no longer carry the burden of begging for permission. This is not coldness, it is maturity. You can love people without giving them access to every unfinished thought. You can receive advice without surrendering your center. You can change your mind when new truth appears without making every opinion your compass. The result is not a life without doubt. It is a life where doubt no longer gets a microphone every time it appears. You feel the question, you test it, and you keep moving when the deeper clarity remains. If the resource mentioned earlier stirred your curiosity, the official page remains in the description and pinned comment. Read it slowly. Examine the details. Make your own decision. Then return your attention to what matters most. Say this now if it fits you. I act from clarity, not from panic, not from pressure, not because someone else needs proof. You are learning to let action carry what explanation used to carry. And this is where the message becomes practical. Silence without action can become another hiding place. Clarity without movement can become another form of delay. The next step is to build a simple filter that turns protected clarity into a real decision. You do not need many rules. You need a process, simple enough to use when emotion is high. Hold what is forming, test what remains true, then disclose only what actually needs to be disclosed, or move before the crowd has anything to vote on. That is the shift. You are becoming more deliberate about what gets access, what gets time, and what deserves action. The goal is not to speak less for the sake of silence. The goal is to speak from a place that no longer needs every listener to agree. And soon, you will make one more decision. Not what to hide, not who to avoid. The decision is what you will do with the clarity you already have. Chosen one, now we make this usable. The next practice is not mystical, and 3 days is not a sacred number. It simply creates space between a fresh impulse and a decision that can survive reflection. Call it the 3-day silence filter. The purpose is clear. Hold first, test second, then disclose or act. On the first day, hold it. Do not announce the plan. Do not defend the boundary. Do not ask 5 people whether your idea sounds wise. Write the decision privately in 1 sentence, then leave it alone long enough to hear what remains when the first emotional wave settles. On the second day, test it. Ask whether it still feels true after sleep. Ask whether it still feels true without praise. Ask whether it remains true after fear becomes quieter. You are not looking for certainty. You are looking for consistency. If it only feels real while someone is cheering, notice that. If it feels urgent only while angry, notice that too. If it survives quiet hours and still points in the same direction, that tells you something important. On the third day, choose. Either disclose because another person truly needs the information, or act because no permission is required. This is the counterintuitive step. Sometimes the healthiest announcement comes after the first action, not before it. Do not use this rule where immediate communication is necessary. Safety, shared responsibilities, health decisions, and commitments involving other people may require direct conversation. Discernment is not an excuse to avoid necessary truth. For a personal goal, however, you may not need an audience before you begin. Build the first page, make the first call, create the first draft, take the first practical step. Let reality test the direction before public reaction does. At the end of this filter, you should have 3. 1 clear decision, 1 next action, and no more than 1 or 2 people who genuinely need access right now. Picture a quiet room for a moment. There is door. You are standing beside it. You do not lock the world out. You simply decide who enters before the room becomes crowded. Place 1 unfinished plan inside that room. Do not explain it. Just recognize it. Then choose the people who truly need access, while everyone else remains outside without becoming an enemy. Notice what happens in your body when you realize you do not have to explain everything today. Let your jaw soften, let your shoulders fall, let the need to perform your certainty become smaller. This is what sacred protection looks like in practice. Hold, test, act. You are not hiding from life. You are creating enough space to meet life from clarity instead of reaction. And before this message closes, there is one final thing to release. The part of you that has spent years asking permission to become who you already know you must become. That part does not need another argument. It needs a declaration. It needs a quiet decision that your next season will not be built around explanation. It will be built around discernment and action. You have guarded the signal. You have reduced the noise. You have learned to test what remains. Now the last question is simple. Who are you when nobody needs to approve? Chosen one, close your eyes if it is safe to do so. Let your breathing become slower. You do not need to force peace. Just allow this moment to become quieter than the one before it. Imagine a simple room. The door is closed, but you are not trapped. The room is clear. There is nothing to impress. There is only you, the decision you carry, and enough silence to hear what remains. Place your hand over your chest, if that feels natural. Let your jaw relax, let your shoulders settle. Then say inside yourself, I do not need permission for what I already know. You are not hiding, you are creating protected space. Fear closes the door to avoid harm. Discernment closes it because something inside still needs time to become clear. Now release the need to explain, release the need to defend, release the urge to announce before you have acted. Release the conversations you keep rehearsing. You do not have to win those arguments. You do not have to make everyone understand. Let evidence speak when it is ready. What is yours to share will have its time. What is yours to protect can remain quiet. What is yours to do requires action. So let this become your declaration. I am clear, I am guarded, I am discerning. I do not speak from fear. I do not explain for permission. I protect what is forming. I act when it is time to act. Let those words settle, not as magic, not as a bargain with God, as a decision about how you will carry yourself. The old pattern wanted immediate reassurance. The new pattern can wait. The old pattern needed agreement before movement. The new pattern can receive counsel without surrendering its center. You have learned the difference between silence and secrecy. You have learned why over-explaining can become a search for permission. You have learned that even a quiet room can contain a noisy mind. And you have learned the deeper principle beneath all of it. Protect the signal, support the receiver. Then, act with integrity. If this message has become a decision for you, write these words: I guard and I act. Let that be the final public statement you need right now. Then let your next evidence be private. A boundary held, a page written, a call made, a plan completed. Chosen one, you do not need to disappear. You are learning when speech serves truth and when silence serves formation. When the time comes to speak, speak without begging to be believed. When the time comes to move, move without asking the crowd to vote. Let the result carry the weight that explanation used to carry. This is your closing decision. I guard what God gave. I listen carefully. I test what remains. I act with courage. I guard and I act. Amen.